welcome back to Hot Oven Time Machine. I'm Monty.
And I'm Joseph.
How are you doing this week?
Doing alright. I'm the, in case you forgot from last week, I'm the master amateur baker.
Yes, and I am master baker in training.
Yeah, I think that's the terminology we've landed on.
Yes. Yes.
I'm doing alright. You know, our audience will hopefully be hearing this in January, but it is currently November when we're recording, and it's a weird November, just warmer than usual.
Mm-hmm.
But then getting colder and then warm. I just wish the weather would make up its mind. Of course, in January, when people are hearing this, but oh god, anything for the warmth. Anything for daylight again.
I know. It was so warm when I came home from work today.
I know, it's like, what is this weather?
Make up your mind.
But this is the podcast where we dive into the history of baking and talk about our favorite foods and taste test them. And today we're continuing our sort of quote-unquote series called Holy Trinity of Baking. We're going to be talking about cake.
Love cake.
I know, Cake is my favorite band from the early 90s. They make some really... Oh, I'm sorry. That was the wrong research.
Ugh, you really... Okay.
Monty hates the band Cake. I love the band Cake.
I hate cake, and I forgot that you were going to bring up the band Cake. I thought we were exclusively talking about food.
No, I thought I would just have a little bit of fun there.
Okay, well, I love food cake.
Hate band Cake.
Hate band cake. Yes.
Correction, hate the band Cake. Cake eaten at a band, or, you know, from a band, quote, band Cake. That's fine.
Yeah.
Hate Cake, the band.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew that. I just thought I'd have some fun.
Oh, okay.
Alright, let's get into it. The history of cake. Similarly to the cookies we discussed last week, cakes have been around since primitive peoples began harvesting wheat and making flour. Cakes were essentially just a sweeter form of bread. Bread is a more, substance, like, to fuel yourself, just to get get calories into your body, and then cakes were a little bit more of a savory treat.
Mm-hmm.
The origin of the word cake comes from the Old Norse word, and I hope there's going to be a lot of probably mispronunciations here, kaka, or maybe kk.
Maybe KK.
Maybe kk, because we say cake.
Maybe
keka.
I could have sworn caca was like Spanish for poop.
We're going to go with keka.
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 Okay.
The Roman word for cake is placenta, in case you were wondering.
Oh.
Which is derived from the Greek word plakous, which was derived from the Greek word plakiois, which means flat.
Oh. I find it a little interesting, though, because, some people eat placenta, like, after they give birth. I know it's kind of gross, but...
It is also weird that cake is derived from a word that we also use for part of the birth process and anatomy, whatever the placenta is.
Yeah.
I'm no scientist. But yeah, it is interesting that... So something about, like, the baby baking in the placenta or something, and bakes are caked. Cakes are baked.
Bakes are cake.
I promise I'm not baked.
Got a bun in the oven. That kind of...
Yeah.
little saying.
Something like that.
Yeah.
The Greek cakes were baked using a mixture of flour, eggs, milk, honey, and nuts. Once the Greeks had learned how to make beer, they then used beer as a leavener to make fritters fried in olive oil and cheesecakes using goat's milk.
Oh, that actually sounds quite delicious.
Yeah, that sounds pretty decadent.
I actually want to, try something like that.
Ooh, like a goat milk cheesecake?
Yeah.
We'll have to remember that. One of the oldest references to cake comes from the Latin poet Ovid, who referred to his birthday and cake in his first book of exile, Tristia. Potentially, where cakes being associated with birthdays might have And it probably would have been quote unquote mainstream culture when the poet Ovid was referring to it, but that just goes to show how long cakes have been associated with birthdays and celebrations.
Mm-hmm.
Early cakes in England were nearly identical to English bread, with the main distinction being that cakes were usually smaller, rounder, and sweeter. We're going to skip a little bit of time because I didn't find a whole lot of interesting things from mid-century England. Cake mixes came about during the Great Depression when the standard ingredients for cakes were in short supply, but there was a surplus of molasses. This marked the beginning of cakes becoming a mass-produced bake-at-home good rather than one bought exclusively from bakeries. Before that, it was you had to go to a master baker to go get your cake.
Yeah.
And then it just became a lot of this happened too during the Great Depression, and shortly after it was a lot of food turning into like a quick, easy commodity instead of something made by professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Or, trying to bring that professional level food down to a more amateur, do-it-yourself level.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. During the post-war boom, with cakes being more relatively easy to make out of a box, there became a bigger emphasis on the frosting and decorating, so that at-home bakers could feel like they were still adding a personal touch to the cake, instead of just it being just pop it in the oven, you're done. You can still customize it.
Yeah.
There are several different kinds of cakes, the main differences of which are differing ingredients and mixing techniques. You got your butter cakes, you got your sponge cakes, you got your chiffon?
I assume that's how it's pronounced. Chiffon?
Chiffon?
Yeah, chiffon.
Sure. Chiffon.
Chiffon.
Chocolate cake, you got your coffee cake, layer cakes, and I misspelled this when I was typing. I have yeet cakes here, but I think I meant yeast cakes.
Yes, yeet cakes.
And as I mentioned earlier, cakes have become associated with celebrating special events, whether it's the likes of birthdays, weddings, or anniversaries, or holidays like Thanksgiving, Halloween, or Christmas.
Oh.
Cakes.
Cakes.
Or cacas.
Cacas.
Or placentas.
What?
Out of all those other previous sort of where the word came from, I don't think I'll be substituting the word placenta for cake.
Yeah, no thank you. I don't really want to associate that with cakes.
Yeah, that's
Especially since cakes are so good.
yeah. Anyway. Today, specifically, for us to try and for us to continue discussing background on, we decided to talk about red velvet cakes. Do you know the origin of the red velvet cake?
Actually, I don't.
You don't?
I don't.
Well, the velvet cake is thought to have originated in Maryland during the late 19th and early 20th century. It's named after its softer, more moist velvet crumb. It was seen as a fancier dessert than the more common, coarser crumble cake. Red velvet came about around the same time as the devil's food cake, the difference being that the devil's cake used chocolate and the red velvet cake used cocoa or cacao or cocoa. I'm not quite sure how it's pronounced. I think any of those are vaguely the same.
Yeah. Cacao, cocoa. It's essentially the same thing.
Is there a more precise, do you just sound fancier if you say cacao?
I suppose so. I mean...
But if you say cocoa, it's the same thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Just making sure.
I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, you know? I'll admit it.
Well, you're the master in training here, so we're gonna go off of your word, and if we're wrong, it's all your fault.
Okay, cool. World ends.
During World War II, when food was being rationed, people used beetle juice to help... Nope.
Beetlejuice?
Beet juice.
Oh.
Really gotta look over these a little bit more when I'm preparing it next time.
Yeah, what's,
Beet juice.
English teachers are always like, proofread.
Nah, who's got time for that?
Then I thought Beetlejuice went into cake.
Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
Aw, nothing happened.
Well, anyway. When food was being rationed, people used beet juice to create the red coloring and to maintain the cake's moisture. Adams Extract, a Texas-based company, is credited with popularizing the cake across America during the Great Depression as being one of the first to sell red food coloring and other extracts in pre-proportioned cake mixes.
Huh.
The original recipe came from the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, which along with the moist red cake had a French-based butter roux icing, which sounds extremely rich and decadent.
That would be very rich and decadent.
Over time, cream cheese and buttercream frosting have become popular options to ice the cake with as well. And that is the very short and sweet history of the red velvet cake.
It's a nice little sweet history.
Oh, yeah. Gotta be a stronger way to end that segment. Nope, can't think of it. We're gonna go with that.
I mean, I'm not surprised that it's like vaguely really similar to Devil's Food Cake. Because those recipes are pretty close together.
Right.
It's just red velvet cake, you add vinegar and cocoa powder.
So is the vinegar there more for flavoring, or does that help with the moisture, or...
Oh man, don't ask me.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I know definitely it's like the buttermilk and vinegar that gives it its distinct flavor.
Oh, okay.
At least for me.
In its construction compared to construction, when you're putting your recipe together and making a red velvet cake, what of the ingredients there makes it more moist versus say a regular cake or a bread?
Let me grab my recipe here.
All right.
I don't really know off the top of my head.
I wasn't sure if there was like just some big major like look at me thing that just made it obviously what everyone associates with red velvet being one of the more moist types of cakes. Because my dumb brain thought that the vinegar played into that somehow. But then I thought about it more. I was like, that's probably just for flavoring.
Yeah, I mean, potentially it probably also plays a factor. I think it's like the buttermilk.
Okay. I could see that, because when I make my buttermilk pancakes, those are definitely more moist than, say, a non-buttermilk pancake.
Yeah, I don't know why it is, but like any cake recipe that I use that uses buttermilk, it's like more moist. Because Devil's Food Cake, I believe, if I'm correct, just trying to remember, because I haven't made it in a while, it also uses buttermilk.
Ah, okay.
And that one's very moist as well.
And just for some clarification, to give Monty some slack here, she is a master baker in training, and we do just enough research for these episodes. So we're going in the vein of we are amateurs that love this and want to share our love with it with others, and we'll try to give you as much info as possible, but we're not the encyclopedia.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only, 4 weeks-ish into culinary school, and we've only kind of touched on creaming methods.
Fair enough.
But, what do you prefer? Cream cheese or, oh no, what's that other icing called?
Buttercream.
Buttercream. Sorry, long day.
Not 100% sure if I can say I've ever had a buttercream frosting. But I know I've definitely had sort of regular frosting, and I know I've had cream cheese, and I love me some cream cheese frosting. It's just so rich.
Well, technically you have.
I have had buttercream?
Yes, because when I worked at the last bakery I worked at, they would mix the cream cheese with buttercream.
Okay. Yeah, then I can definitely say more cream cheese frosting than just straight buttercream.
I mean, you don't get that lovely tang, with buttercream. Buttercream's just sweet and creamy.
But that cream cheese, though.
Lovely tang.
That cream cheese is where it is at.
Yes.
So good.
I would have to say cream cheese as well, for me.
Faux show.
Yes.
So, what do you say we get to tasting this here bad boy?
I'm so excited.
Me too. Just to be 100% honest with our audience, we have made this recipe before, which maybe we should have slightly varied it so that we wouldn't have tasted it beforehand, but I am excited to try it again.
To be fair, these first few episodes, all the recipes that I'm doing, it's things that I've made before, and I know that they're good.
But I haven't necessarily tried them all, so we'll see about next week.
Yeah. And also, I feel like we should preface when you look at the photos on the website, we have not made a red velvet cake. We have made a green velvet cake.
We thought it'd be more fun.
And I also didn't have red food dye. I only had pink, green, or blue.
And also, unfortunately, when it baked, it kind of came out looking like
Poo
poo-poo.
poo, yeah.
So, color-wise, on the cake, we didn't do great. But I'm sure the flavor will outshine it.
Yes, hopefully cutting into it, one, it'll have lovely layers, but also it'll have a nice color on the inside.
The takeaway here is sometimes you experiment and it doesn't turn out as well as you thought it would. But if you're only experimenting with color, then have you really failed?
Yeah, and we're not working for perfection here. I'll admit, I screw up a lot of recipes.
As long as you can get it in the ballpark.
Yeah.
As long as you don't eat it and go, what monstrosity have I made here today?
Like, I just watched an episode of Great British Bake Off a few days ago, and the guy was making sponge cake, and he put salt instead of sugar. Oof. And Paul took a bite. At least I think that's what the judge's name is, Paul, the male judge. He took a bite and he immediately spat it out. And he's like, "Do not eat it." Miss Mary Berry would no. Poor old thing would die.
It's okay to make mistakes as long as you can admit it and learn from it.
Exactly.
We're maybe playing up the green cake worse than maybe it actually turned out. It's been a couple days since I've seen it when you were assembling it. Maybe it'll look better in this late afternoon light.
Yeah, and when we cut into it, the outside was kind of atrocious.
Well, let's not delay any further. Let's
go eat some cake.
Let's get some cake. No,
get out of here.
Monty is cutting into the cake. I'm watching her from across the room. Seems to be some successful cutting happening. The cake is not immediately falling apart. Not that I thought it would. Ooh, she getting us some thick old slices. Oh, yeah. She is shaking her head. The color is no bueno. The color was not happening. We have failed in the color department. But it can only go uphill from here. Yeah, in this light, it's almost some weird between green and brown almost.
Yeah, not
the most pleasant looking color.
Not a fan at all. I suppose if we had done the brighter green instead of like the more foresty green.
Yeah. In our minds, we went with I'm a sucker for like a dark foresty olive kind of color. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, this will work out great. And no, we should have gone with the brighter. But that's okay. Onwards and upwards. It can only get better from here.
Yes.
All right. That is really good.
Oh my word. I don't know. It gets better every time I make it somehow.
My only complaint, and this is my fault totally because I wasn't prepared to record yesterday, it seems slightly less moist than it would have if we'd eaten it sooner. But it's still very delicious.
Yes.
The cream cheese icing is excellent on this. I was about to say it's doing a whole lot of heavy lifting, but that makes it sound like the cake's not doing anything. But the cake is totally doing a lot.
I'm gonna try some, like, just the cake.
Yeah, I'm about to eat me a piece with minimal icing.
I will admit, it is slightly dry.
But I'll take the fall for that, because we were supposed to have recorded yesterday, and we didn't, for reasons I won't go into too much great detail, but I just said I wasn't ready.
Hey, that's totally fine.
But the flavor is really good. The cocoa, I can really taste it. It's the cocoa and the vinegar combined. Like I've never really noticed the vinegar before, but now that I'm like trying to focus on it, I can really just that hint of vinegar really.
Also, we don't own an eighth of a teaspoon since I cut the recipe in half. And I was trying to eyeball it with a quarter of a teaspoon, and I just ended up using a quarter of a teaspoon. But I mean, it's not like
I don't hate it.
It is not overly strong.
Like if you were to go back to the full size recipe, you could almost double the vinegar in that, and I think it would work out pretty well. I would think it's
Probably.
not overpowering. It's you just get more of it.
I'm so bad at like my descriptive words. It's most definitely one of my downfalls when it comes to writing my narratives for school.
Cake good, much sweet.
Very yummy.
Make taste buds go happy.
Makes my mouth happy. This is so good.
Man, that cream cheese icing is just out of this world. It's it's got the tang. It's not overly sweet, but it's like sweet enough. It doesn't make your teeth hurt with how sweet it is. It's like the perfect balance.
Mm-hmm. So, I thought my best friend was a little insane for saying that cream cheese is superior to buttercream because I'm a huge fan of buttercream. And I realized it's not because of the taste. It's because when I have to ice a cake, cream cheese is not as forgiving as buttercream. It's a lot thinner, which I'm not a fan of, but I love the taste more than buttercream.
So taste wise, you're cream cheese, but for structural, decorative reasons, you
Mm-hmm.
lean more towards buttercream. Easier to mold around a cake.
Yes.
I see. Well, I'm never much one for decorating or putting on a show. So I definitely aim for flavor over presentation. So that's why I'm never even bothered with buttercream. Just would rather have cream cheese. Like it might not look the prettiest, but just put it in your mouth and it'll taste good.
I don't know. There has to be some level of presentation, in my opinion.
Well, I'm speaking as from a purely just home chef, not really necessarily looking into going into the world of chefing or baking. I'm all about that flavor.
Yeah, because definitely the one thing that one of my chefs has like repeated is that you want it to look good. You want it to look like something people will eat.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to go out of my way to make a dish look worse. And then be like, daring people like, trust me, it tastes better than it looks. There's a base level of like wanting it to look good, but
Mm-hmm.
I would rather have the cake with the cream cheese or cinnamon rolls with cream cheese, not perfectly spread on there. Not every piece looks absolutely perfect, but it's going
Mm-hmm.
to taste absolutely perfect.
Yes.
Baseline, you do want it to have some degree of like, ooh, that looks good.
Yeah.
Get your mouth watering before you even eat it. I'm not going to make just. That would be a fun challenge, though, to try to like make something that looks disgusting but tastes good.
It wouldn't be very hard of a challenge. Um,
No, I mean like takes to like go absolutely hard, like just really make something look absolutely unappetizing.
mm.
Like do not want to eat it, but then you eat it and you're like, oh wow, this is actually really good.
That reminds me of like, well, it was like a chocolate croissant or something, but the way they did it, it just looked like a pile of shit. And I was like, I wouldn't want to eat that, but also I'd be curious to see how good it tastes.
Well, I was a monster and ate my whole slice. I see Monty is maybe saving hers for after we're done recording since we're nearing the end.
Yeah, and I don't like to make too much mouth noises.
So I think we've come to the part of the podcast where we rate the recipe.
Hmm.
I think I gave my rating first last time, so I defer to you, Monty. What do you rate this recipe here today?
I'd probably give it,
You might want to go put the lid back on the cake.
oh no! Was someone eating the cake?
They were both up there, like, sniffing and about to start licking
You
it.
mother... What? You touched this cake! Jeff, was it you? You're licking your mouth a lot.
I think it was both of them, honestly. I just looked over and saw them both close to it, and I was like, oh no.
Jeff's really licking.
We just had to stop our cats from trying to eat the cake. We should have realized to put the lid back on it.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna leave the lid off to take a picture later. And then, oh man, you can physically see where one of them has like licked it. That piece is it's garbage now.
Jeff. I can't believe you, Jeff.
And I know it was him because Jordy was just looking at me, right? Jeff was like really like licking his lips to cleanse his
Jeff,
palate.
you have been our golden boy. You've been the opposite of our problem child. I can't believe it was you that ate the cake. For shame. We shouldn't have tempted them, though, I suppose.
It is a very good cake.
Yeah, like, you can't be too mad at them.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't blame him at all. I too would jump up on the counter and eat it.
jump up on the counter on all fours and just shove your face in.
Yeah. No fork, nothing. I have forks at the ends of my hands.
Well, since the cake is so good for you to jump up on the counter and eat it like a cat, we should discuss our ratings for this recipe. What are you thinking today?
Unfortunately, this week, it's an 8. I do have to knock off some points for the green. It makes it look a little less appealing, and it was a little dry this week, either from sitting too long or me over baking it.
Yes, I do remember you having to. It seemed like you had to bake it a little bit longer than what was called for in your recipe. It seemed like you had to keep turning the timer back on.
Yeah, originally in the recipe, like the full size, it's like 25 minutes or something like that.
Uh-huh.
But when I half it, since they're like 6-inch pans, I believe, 6 or 8, I started at like 15, just so I wouldn't overbake it absolutely.
Gotcha.
But they both baked at different times. So, yeah, I don't know what happened there. I mean,
Yeah, I
it
don't know.
happens. It
Yeah.
really does. You can't like get anything like 100% perfectly baked.
To be fair,
To be fair.
I think it was a little bit chillier the other day when you were making this. We were complaining about the weather drastically changing from day to day. I think it was
Yeah.
a slightly colder day, so that
Yeah.
might have had an effect on it. But yeah, that is a good point. You're never going to have exactly the same baking conditions, or the ingredients aren't ever going to be 100% exactly the same, so there's always going to be small variations.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What's your rating this week?
Well, I don't feel so bad now for my rating that I was going to. It's not that bad.
Oh.
It's actually still higher than what you gave it. I was going to give it an 8.5.
Oh, okay.
But for the same reasons. And again, this is partially on my fault, I feel like, because I went hard for wanting to have that green coloring, and then it just didn't quite turn out. But I do agree also, on that first bite, it just wasn't as moist as I was expecting it to be. It was just seemed a little drier.
Yeah.
Still an excellent cake, and I've tasted it in the past where it's definitely like had that moisture level, and like it's just that perfect moist red velvet cake. But so that's why I'm still giving it 8.5 instead of an 8. I know this recipe can do what it's aiming to do. Just we messed it up somehow. I'll take the blame for the green. I went really hard for that green.
Yeah.
It just
You kind of did, because
did
I was
not
like,
turn out.
I was like, I have pink. It's close to red.
I said no, green.
And now it kind of looks like poo poo. It looks like, excuse me for getting vulgar here, but it looks like what would happen after I eat Taco Bell.
Whew. Well, now I know that my stomach's not nearly as bad off as yours.
I swear, it doesn't look like that.
Oh, sure, right, okay.
100%. Man, we probably shouldn't talk about poop on a food show. I feel like we mentioned the word poop so much in this episode.
We should. I'll probably cut some of those references.
No, keep it all in.
Keep it all in.
Keep it all in.
Even when you got up and screamed at the cats. Keep the dead silence in. We're just silently eating the cake, thinking about it.
Yeah. No cuts.
No cuts. Okay. All right. Well, there you have it. That is our recipe scores for this week. Monty gives it a solid 8. I give it a 8.5. which I think was, I don't remember off the top of my head what we gave it last week because I didn't write it down last week. I haven't edited the episode yet, but I feel like our scores were higher last
They
week
were a
for
lot
the
higher.
cookies.
Yeah.
But hey, you win some, you lose some. It's still a good recipe. We'll have it up on the website.
Yes.
A link to it somewhere if it's linkable. And yeah. So last week I had a question of why this baked this way, and I think in a somewhat similar but not quite as silly vein, I think Monty has something for me before we end the episode today.
Yes, it's a little exciting. I wanted to know what you know, because I know a few terms. Like, I had to learn what mise en place meant in school.
Oh, you want to know what I know about baking?
Yeah,
Because I know a lot about a lot of different things, but you want to know
this is a
specifically.
baking podcast.
This is a well, yeah, so you're gonna ask me a baking quiz. That's what I was
Yes,
trying to get at. Is I want to have hard, solid segments.
sir.
I've created a weird energy, and I apologize.
I just want to know what terms you know.
Okay, so food quiz.
Mm, my workshop that a little, but
Food quiz.
so I'm trying to decide. I've picked a few words. I have quite a few saved. I am curious to know what you think it is to blanch something.
To blanch something. Well, it sounds similar to bleaching something, but there's an N in it. If you take off the first two letters and substitute R, you get ranch.
Hmm.
I'm going to take a shot in the dark and say that to blanch something is to boil it on the stovetop.
You're actually halfway there.
Oh, I was in the ballpark.
Yes. So
Ooh,
typically, oh,
ooh.
you still want to guess? Okay,
Yeah, I normally wouldn't do this, but since I was so close. Oh
you are
man.
halfway
Oh,
there.
I'm halfway there.
You do boil something, but then you have to do something else.
And then whisk it.
No.
All right, I've run out of confidence. I give up.
Okay. So typically to blanch something like with I hate even that I'm saying this, but like when you're making a great pie. Um I hate making great pie. That's a story for another day. Um
Oh, I feel so dumb now. Continue.
you boil it and then you put it in cold water or ice water to stop the cooking process and then it also helps skin things easier.
See, like I knew how to blanch. I just didn't know that's what it was called.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, we learn things, don't we?
Mhm. I got one more.
Just one more.
One more.
All right, I'll try not to whiff it.
Okay. Do you know what it is to emulsify something?
Ooh,
I give you a couple hard ones this time.
coming out hard
Yeah.
on this quiz. Okay, making me feel like I'm back in college and it's pop quiz time, and I forgot to read the chapter. Boy. Run that by me again. Emulsify?
Yes, emulsify or emulsion.
Ooh, emulsion. Um, emulsify, multiply.
Because I mentioned it when we were baking this cake.
Oh boy. And I watched you bake this whole cake.
I went, yeah, we're kind of emulsifying, sort of.
Oh, maybe my memory won't fail me. It's to like dissolve a solid or powdery substance into a liquidy substance.
No.
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 Okay, I give up. Teach me.
So to emulsify something is to mix two things that aren't mixable, like oil and water.
Oh.
Or, also oil and buttermilk. So those don't really mix together very well.
So it's just stirring two things that don't mix well together as best you can.
Yeah.
Huh.
I get where your confusion was. Because I brought up emulsifying something when I was mixing the cocoa powder and the oil, but those things mix very well together.
Yeah. Well, now I know, and for the next pop quiz, I will also not study to keep this segment fun.
Thank you. That's all I could ask. A teacher would be horrified, but
But for the entertainment of our podcasting audience,
I'm just a trainee. It's okay.
I will bear this cross of not knowing beforehand what the pop quiz might be about, or knowing when or if we'll have one,
Yeah,
as is the terror of a pop quiz.
that is true. Also, the terror of why this bake this way. We're just adding a lot of surprises.
We're just going to keep finding sub-segments until it's sub-segments all the way down.
Yeah. We're not even gonna have like history anymore.
Yeah, it's just going to be sub-segment after sub-segment. We're going to be halfway through the episode and we're like, how did we get down this far? Where are we? What was the topic? Like Daedalus's string, we'll have to weave our way back through the maze. Well, that's about going to do it here for us today, folks. We appreciate you spending some time with us as we talked about red velvet cakes and ate red velvet cakes and discussed how that red velvet cake tasted. And I hope it inspires you to go make your own red velvet cake. And check us out again next time when we continue our introductory series of the Holy Trinity of Baking. And we'll be discussing...
Was it pies?
Pretty sure it's pies.
I'm like 80% sure it's pies.
Next week, we will be talking about pies. Thank you so much for listening. You can check us out on Instagram at Hot Oven Time Machine Podcast. You can also check out our website, hotoventimemachine.com, where we will have recipes, where you can download the episodes, or you can download them from your favorite podcatcher of choice. You know, whether you're old school and get it from the iTunes podcast store, or you can have like Pocket Cast, or whatever you're into. If you enjoyed listening to our episode today and would like to support us, we don't want to spend too much time driving this home, but we have a Patreon. You can go check us out at patreon.com/hotoventimemachine. But just, you know, if you enjoyed it and you want us to continue putting out these podcasts and, you know, just help us cover the cost of baking and hosting the website, we're not looking for much. Just whatever you can throw our way, we'd appreciate it. And if you can't, just spread the word. If you know people who enjoy a fun, lighthearted baking podcast, just let them know that we exist. Anything to add over there, Monty?
I'm just gonna sign off with go bake something.
Go bake something. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the journey. You'll enjoy the destination as well. You'll enjoy it all. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.